You know that feeling when you check your investment account for the third time today and wonder if your money is actually doing anything productive or if it's just sitting there laughing at you? Well, buckle up, because today I'm going to show you exactly what happens in those brutal early months and years before your income starts snowballing, and why 90% of people quit right before the magic begins. My name is Nick, and I help people understand how money actually works instead of just hoping for the best. If you're tired of watching your account balance move slower than a government website, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Here's something that might shock you. 87% of your lifetime investment growth happens in the final stretch of your journey. Think about that for a second. Nearly 9 out of every $10 you'll ever make from investing shows up when you're practically ready to retire, the first decade. That's basically just you paying your dues to the compound interest gods, hoping they'll eventually notice your existence. This is why most people give up. They start investing, watch their account crawl along like it's powered by a hamster on a coffee break, and quietly decide this whole wealth building thing is a scam. They're not wrong about the crawling part, but they're dead wrong about giving up. Let me introduce you to Marcus. Marcus works at a mid-sized accounting firm, crunching numbers 40 hours a week and pulling in about $50,000 a year before the government takes their cut. After taxes, health insurance, and all those other delightful deductions, he's looking at roughly $3,000 hitting his checking account each month. His rent swallows up $1,200. Food, gas, phone bill, and basic human survival costs eat through another $1,500. Most months, Marcus ends up with maybe $200 or $300 floating around after everything's paid. If this sounds painfully familiar, stick with me, because Marcus doesn't win the lottery or suddenly become a cryptocurrency millionaire. The only thing that changes is how he approaches the numbingly boring early phase of building wealth. On a random Tuesday in March, Marcus decides to stop scrolling through social media during his lunch break and actually does something productive for once. He opens up a basic investment account and stares at the interface like it's written in ancient hieroglyphics. After watching approximately 17 YouTube videos about index funds and reading 3 articles that made his brain hurt, Marcus makes a decision that looks almost comically small on paper. He sets up an automatic investment of $100 on the first of every month. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, not because some guru told him it was the magic number, but because it's the amount he can lose without having a panic attack about rent money. Here's what actually happens next, and this is the part that breaks most people's spirits before they even get started. Month 1 arrives, and Marcus checks his account with the enthusiasm of someone opening their credit card statement. He sees $103, the market did its little wiggle dance, and he's up a whopping $3. He could have found more money in his couch cushions. By month 2, he's got around $208 invested. The financial news is screaming about market volatility, inflation fears, and economic uncertainty. His balance bounces between 195 and 215 like a ping pong ball. Marcus starts wondering if he should have just bought coffee with that money instead. Month 3 hits, and the pattern continues. He's sitting at roughly $312. One day, it's up $7. The next day, it's down $12. The emotional experience feels like watching paint dry in slow motion while someone occasionally walks by and flicks the wall. This is what I call the boredom stage, and it's where most people's investing dreams go to die. The math is actually working perfectly. Compound interest is doing its thing in the background, like a reliable employee who never calls in sick. You just can't see any meaningful results yet because, frankly, there aren't any meaningful results to see. Most people hit this stage and think they're doing something wrong. They cancel the automatic investment, promising themselves they'll restart when they can afford to invest a real amount, whatever that means. They're essentially quitting their job on the second day because they haven't been promoted to CEO yet. But Marcus makes one crucial decision that separates him from the quitters. He decides that for the first year, his investment account isn't allowed to make him feel anything at all. it's just another bill, like his phone payments or his Netflix subscription. The money goes out automatically and he doesn't waste mental energy debating whether it's working. This might sound simple, but it's actually revolutionary. Most people treat their early investments like a performance they need to monitor constantly. They check their balance daily, calculating how much they're up or down, getting excited about good days and depressed about bad ones. It's exhausting, and it leads to terrible decisions. Around month 6, something small but significant happens. Marcus's account crosses the $500 mark for the first time. It's still not life-changing money by any stretch of the imagination, but for Marcus, it represents something he's never had before. A line on his net worth graph that only points in one direction, even if that direction feels like it's moving through molasses. Then, month 7 delivers a reality check that would have destroyed the old Marcus. His car starts making that sound that every car owner dreads, the one that screams, expensive repair bills. The mechanic delivers the bad news with all the enthusiasm of a funeral director, $650 for parts and labor. The old Marcus would have immediately raided his investment account and killed the whole experiment before it had a chance to work. But something has shifted in his thinking. Instead of seeing that $650 as available cash, he started viewing it as seeds planted for his future self. This is the identity stage of wealth building, and it's arguably more important than any return on investment. Marcus has stopped thinking of himself as someone who spends every dollar he earns and started identifying as someone who pays his future self first. He takes on a weekend side project, sells some old electronics gathering dust in his closet, and covers the repair without touching his investments. The catch that nobody talks about is this. Those early deposits do almost nothing at first and almost everything later. It's like planting an oak tree. You water it, fertilize it, and protect it for years while it looks like an overpriced stick in your yard. Then one day, you wake up and realize you've got shade that covers half your property. By the end of year 1, Marcus has made 12 monthly deposits of $100 each. That's $1,200 of his own hard-earned money flowing into the investment account, thanks to normal market movements, dividends getting reinvested, and the basic math of capitalism. His account shows something around $1,275. He's up about $75 for an entire year of discipline and patience. If a coworker looked at his account balance, they'd probably laugh and ask why he didn't just buy a new gaming console instead. All that delayed gratification for the equivalent of a nice dinner out. But this is exactly where compound interest shifts from being about money to being about mindset. Marcus isn't just building wealth in that account, he's building the mental muscles that wealthy people use every single day. He's learning to think in decades instead of months, to prioritize his future self over his current impulses, and to stay calm when everyone around him is panicking about market movements. In year 2, Marcus does something that seems almost boringly simple, but ends up being more powerful than any stock picking strategy ever invented. He doesn't dramatically increase his monthly contribution because he can't afford to. Instead, every time he gets a small raise, picks up extra overtime, or receives any unexpected money, he bumps his monthly investment by just $10 or $15. By the end of year 2, his monthly investment has crept up from $100 to $125. That tiny, seemingly insignificant change does more for his future wealth than trying to pick the next Amazon or Apple ever could. It's the financial equivalent of adding one more rep to your workout routine. Doesn't feel like much in the moment, but over time, it compounds into something extraordinary. By month 24, Marcus has deposited roughly $2,700 of his own money. Thanks to market gains, dividend reinvestment, and the basic mechanics of capitalism doing what it does, his account shows around $3,050. The growth still looks modest, just over $300 in profit, but something fundamental has shifted that most people completely miss. The gap between what he put in and what his account shows is no longer pocket change. It's starting to feel like his money is working a part-time job while he sleeps. This is what I call the separation stage, where your investments stop feeling like an expense and start feeling like an employee that never takes sick days. Around this time, Marcus stumbles across something that changes his entire perspective on money. He's not reading fancy investment books or following some guru on social media. He's just paying attention to his own behavior and realizes something profound. For the first time in his adult life, he's not living paycheck to paycheck, even though his salary hasn't changed dramatically. The difference isn't that he's earning more money, the difference is that he's trained himself to live on less than he makes, and that psychological shift is worth more than any investment return. When his friends complain about being broke 2 days after payday, Marcus quietly realizes he hasn't checked his checking account balance in weeks because he already knows there's money there. This is where most financial advice completely misses the point. Everyone focuses on the numbers, the percentages, the compound interest calculations, but the real magic happens in your brain. Marcus has rewired his relationship with money from someone who spends everything he earns to someone who automatically pays his future self first. Now, here's where things start getting interesting, and by interesting, I mean the kind of boring that eventually makes you rich. Marcus keeps nudging his monthly investment higher by small amounts. 125 becomes 140 and then 160. A tax refund shows up one spring, and instead of immediately spending it on something he'll forget about in 6 months, he drops $300 extra into his investment account. He's not living like a monk or eating ramen noodles every night. He still goes out with friends, still buys the occasional gadget, still enjoys life. The difference is that his spending has become intentional instead of automatic. Every purchase gets filtered through a simple question. Will I care about this in 5 years? Or would I rather my future self have this money? Fast forward to year 5. Marcus is 32 now, still working at the same accounting firm, but in a slightly better position with more responsibility and a salary that's crept up to around $57,000. His monthly investment contribution has grown to $190. Nothing dramatic, just the natural result of small increases over time. His total deposits over 5 years add up to roughly $10,000, thanks to the market doing its slow, often frustrating thing. His account shows just under $13,000. Only about $3,000 of that balance is actual growth. But here's the key that most people miss completely, that $3,000 didn't cost Marcus any additional work, any extra hours, or any brilliant stock picks. It appeared because time and compound returns decided to team up. At this point, a lot of people would still be disappointed. 5 years of discipline and the account is barely in 5 figures, but compound interest is just starting to stretch its legs like a runner finishing their warm-up routine. What this means for Marcus is something that sounds almost too good to be true, but is mathematically inevitable. The dollars he invested in year 1 have more time to grow than the dollars he'll invest in year 15. So even though those early contributions were smaller, they end up doing more heavy lifting over the long run. It's like the difference between planting a tree today versus planting one 10 years from now. Both trees will grow, but the one you plant today gets a decade head start. This leads us to the part of wealth building that almost nobody feels emotionally prepared for, the moment when the math stops being theoretical and starts being visceral. Around year 8 or 9, the growth curve finally starts doing that thing you see in textbooks where the line stops being polite and starts aggressively pointing toward the sky. Marcus has been investing consistently for nearly a decade. His total contributions might be around $18,000, but his account could now be showing $25,000 or $26,000. The gap is no longer a nice dinner out. It's a reliable used car. It's 6 months of rent money. It's the kind of buffer that completely changes how you sleep at night. But here's the twist that catches everyone off guard. The math didn't suddenly change that month. The stock market didn't become kinder or more generous. What changed is that Marcus finally crossed the invisible threshold where the annual growth from his portfolio exceeds his annual contributions. In a good market year, his investments might grow by $4,000 or $5,000 while he's only adding around $3,000. He wakes up one morning, checks his account out of habit, and realizes it grew more last month than he put in. That's the moment wealth building stops being an abstract concept and starts being a lived reality. It's like watching a fire that you've been carefully feeding with kindling suddenly catch a log and roar to life. This is the real heart of compound interest, what I call the handoff stage. Marcus's job shifts from pushing the snowball to protecting it from melting. He stops obsessing over finding extra dollars to invest and starts focusing on protecting the habits that got him here. When his income increases, he lets his lifestyle improve, but keeps it one step behind his earning power. When friends upgrade to expensive apartments in trendy neighborhoods, Marcus waits a year and finds something nice but reasonable. When someone jokes that he's being cheap, he smiles and changes the subject because he knows something they don't. Wealth isn't what you spend. Wealth is what you don't spend multiplied by time and patience. By year 10 or 11, Marcus witnesses something that borders on the surreal. In a strong market year, his account might grow by $6,000 or $7,000 without any heroic contributions from him. That's more money than he used to save across entire years in his 20s. Those tiny $100 deposits from the beginning are now pulling their weight alongside the bigger contributions from recent years. The psychological shift is profound. Marcus used to think of himself as someone who worked for money. Now he's someone whose money works for him, and the money is getting better at its job every year. The first few years of investing felt pointless. The middle years felt promising. The later years feel almost unfairly generous, like the universe finally decided to return his patience with interest. So what does this actually mean for you? Sitting there wondering if your $50 a month is going to do anything besides buy you the world's most expensive cup of patience? Let me break down the brutal truth about what happens next. Because understanding this timeline is the difference between becoming wealthy and spending your entire life wondering why everyone else seems to have figured out money except you. First, understand that those early months aren't really about building wealth. They're about building the kind of person who can handle wealth when it shows up. You're essentially going through financial boot camp, training your brain to think like someone who prioritizes their future self over their current impulses. Even if your investment account evaporated tomorrow, that mental training would still be worth its weight in gold. Second, accept that the numbers will make you question your sanity for a surprisingly long time. This isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Compound interest is designed to be boring at the beginning so that only the patient and persistent get to enjoy the fireworks at the end. If it paid off immediately, everyone would be rich, which means nobody would actually be rich. Third, protect your investment system like it's the last slice of pizza at a college party. If all you can manage is $29 a month, then guard that $29 like it contains the secret to eternal youth. When your income rises, nudge it up gradually. When life decides to practice its uppercut technique on your face, find a way to keep the system breathing even if you have to pause growth for a few months. The people who make it through this gauntlet aren't necessarily smarter or more disciplined than everyone else. They just understand something that most people never learn. Boring consistency beats exciting speculation almost every single time. While others are chasing the latest cryptocurrency or trying to time the market like they're day trading profits, successful wealth builders are quietly adding to their index funds with the enthusiasm of someone paying their electric bill. Here's something that might hurt to hear but needs to be said anyway. The average person will start and stop their investment journey approximately 4 times before they either give up completely or finally stick with it long enough to see results. They'll invest for 6 months, get bored, cash out to buy something they'll forget about in a year, then restart the whole process when they feel guilty about their financial situation. Each restart costs them years of compound growth that can never be recovered. It's like planting a garden, getting impatient with how slowly the vegetables are growing, digging everything up to plant something else, then wondering why you never have a harvest. The vegetables weren't the problem. Your patience was the problem. Marcus's story isn't unique or special, and that's exactly the point. He didn't possess some secret knowledge or superhuman discipline. He just refused to quit during the boredom stage when quitting felt like the most rational thing in the world. So, start your $100 a month. Protect it like it's your financial lifeline, and remember that your future millionaire self is counting on the decision you make today. The income snowball is coming, but only if you're still there when it arrives.